For more than 2 centuries, one name has echoed through the corridors of power, whispered in banks, boardrooms, and royal courts. A family so wealthy, so influential, that their story blurs the line between history and legend. Some call them the guardians of global finance. Others, the shadow rulers of the modern world. This is the story of the Rothschilds, the world's richest and most mysterious dynasty. The beginning of a legend. Our story begins in the narrow, cobblestone streets of Frankfurt, Germany, in the mid-18th century. There, in a small Jewish ghetto known as Judengasse, lived a humble money changer named Mayer Amschel Rothschild. He wasn't born into wealth or privilege. But Mayer possessed something far more powerful, an extraordinary mind for numbers, negotiation, and opportunity. In a world dominated by kings and empires, Jews in Europe were often restricted, denied property, professions, or even basic rights. Yet within these walls, Mayer discovered the art of finance. He began trading coins, collecting rare currency, and building a small business that catered to aristocrats. Among his earliest clients was Crown Prince Wilhelm of Hesse, one of the wealthiest men in Europe. This connection would change everything. The birth of a financial empire. By the late 1700s, Mayer Rothschild had built something remarkable, not a company, but a network. He trained his 5 sons, Amschel, Salomon, Nathan, Karl, and James, to think not as merchants, but as strategists of finance. Each son was sent to a different capital of Europe. Amschel in Frankfurt, Salomon in Vienna, Nathan in London, Karl in Naples, and James in Paris. What Mayer created was not a family business, it was a financial web that connected the major cities of Europe. While other bankers relied on letters that took weeks to travel, the Rothschilds built their own private courier system, faster than governments, more reliable than armies. It became their greatest weapon. The Napoleonic Wars, rise of the House of Rothschild. When Napoleon Bonaparte shook Europe with war and chaos, the Rothschilds saw not destruction, but opportunity. Governments needed money, for weapons, for armies, for survival. And no one could move gold across borders as efficiently as the Rothschilds. Nathan Rothschild, the family's London branch leader, became the most powerful banker in Britain. He financed the British government during the Napoleonic Wars and developed a reputation for being cold, brilliant, and utterly fearless. It was said that Nathan's agents could deliver funds from London to the front lines of Europe faster than Napoleon's armies could march. After the Battle of Waterloo in 1815, a legend was born. According to popular myth, Nathan received news of Napoleon's defeat hours before the British government did. He allegedly used that knowledge to manipulate the London stock market, selling, then secretly buying back British bonds at a massive profit. Though historians debate the accuracy of this tale, one truth remains. The Rothschilds' control of information made them the first modern masters of financial intelligence. The Empire of Money. By the mid-19th century, the Rothschilds were no longer mere bankers, they were financial monarchs. Their wealth was vast, their influence unmatched. They financed wars and peace treaties, built railroads and canals, and even shaped national economies. They were instrumental in funding Britain's Napoleon defeat, Austria's imperial expansion, and France's Industrial Revolution. Their power extended far beyond Europe. In the 1820s, they financed the construction of the Suez Canal, connecting Europe to Asia, a move that forever changed world trade. In every major financial decision, from government loans to infrastructure projects, a Rothschild was quietly involved behind the scenes. Kings and ministers sought their approval. Nations depended on their credit. And yet, despite their influence, the Rothschilds remained private, shunning publicity, preferring to operate from the shadows. The secrecy and the myth. This secrecy fueled fascination and suspicion. By the late 1800s, the Rothschild name had become synonymous with both wealth and conspiracy. Whispered rumors claimed they controlled the world's banks, dictated wars, and decided the fate of nations. Anti-Semitic pamphlets and writers of the time exaggerated their power, turning them into symbols of greed and manipulation. But the truth was more complex. Yes, the Rothschilds were rich, unimaginably so. But they also built schools, hospitals, and supported science and art. They used their fortune to influence, but also to advance progress. In an age when Europe's nobility looked down on Jewish families, the Rothschilds rose so high that kings and queens sought their friendship. The modernization of power. As the 19th century turned into the 20th, the world changed. Industrialization, revolutions, and the rise of new empires reshaped global finance. The Rothschilds began to withdraw from political dominance, focusing instead on banking, mining, and industry. They helped establish national banking systems, including institutions that inspired the Bank of England and later the Federal Reserve System. They financed the construction of railways across Europe, and even the early days of oil exploration and energy. The Rothschild name became a symbol of stability, a mark that could turn a failing project into a global success. Yet even as their influence spread, their public visibility declined. The modern Rothschilds no longer ruled from palaces, but from boardrooms. They adapted, transforming from kings of gold to architects of the global economy. The family legacy. Generations passed, and the Rothschild fortune became so vast it was impossible to measure. They built grand estates in France and England, filled with art and rare collections. They sponsored scientific research, exploration, and environmental preservation. And through it all, they remained united by a family creed: Concordia, Integritas, Industria, Harmony, Integrity, Industry. But the myths never faded. In the modern era, the Rothschilds have been accused of everything from controlling the world's central banks to influencing wars, pandemics, and politics. Most of these claims are false or exaggerated, but they reveal a deeper truth, that the family's mystique remains powerful even after centuries. The 20th century and beyond. During the World Wars, the family's European branches faced immense challenges. Their properties were seized by Nazis, some family members were forced to flee. Yet, the Rothschild legacy endured. After the wars, they rebuilt their institutions, quietly regaining their influence in finance and philanthropy. Today, the Rothschilds are not a single empire but a global network of investors, bankers, and philanthropists. Their holdings span vineyards, financial institutions, renewable energy, and even charitable foundations. They no longer dominate the world economy, but their fingerprints remain on its very structure. Power, myth, and memory. So what makes the Rothschild story endure? Perhaps it's not just their wealth, but what they represent, the human desire to understand power. They are proof that influence doesn't always wear a crown or hold a throne. Sometimes, it signs a loan, funds a revolution, or builds a bridge between continents. The Rothschilds mastered the invisible art of control, money, information, and trust.